He never smoked, ate well, walked every day, and yet, by 73 he was gone. What the doctors finally admitted, it wasn't his heart, his lungs, or his diet. It was isolation. Loneliness is now officially more dangerous than cigarettes, and most people never see it coming. It starts quietly, a missed call, an empty calendar, and then the spiral. But what if the cure isn't in a pill but in something you already have? He never smoked, ate well, walked every day. Blood pressure? Normal. Labs? Boring. But by 73 he was gone. Not from a heart attack, not from cancer. The autopsy said it was natural causes, but what the doctors whispered to the family was different. It was the quiet, the silence, the absence of connection. It was loneliness, and he's not alone. Today, scientists are calling loneliness the new smoking, because that's how deadly it is. A landmark study by Holt Lundstad and colleagues at Brigham Young University found that chronic loneliness increases early death risk by 26%. Let that sink in. That's a greater mortality risk than obesity, and almost equal to smoking a pack of cigarettes every day. And unlike smoking, there's no warning label, no smell, no coughing fits. Loneliness kills, quietly. It shrinks your brain, literally. In a 2021 study published in Nature Communications, older adults who reported feeling lonely had less gray matter in areas related to memory and emotion. In fact, loneliness is now considered a major risk factor for dementia, and the effects go deeper than just the mind. A 2015 meta-analysis found that loneliness increases risk of coronary heart disease and stroke. Another study from the National Institute on Aging revealed that lonely people experience higher levels of inflammation, suppressed immune response, and greater vulnerability to viruses, including the common cold. Now here's the most dangerous part. You don't have to be alone to feel lonely. That's the myth. You can have people around you, even a partner, and still feel completely disconnected. Because loneliness isn't about proximity. It's about meaningful connection, and that's what most people are missing. Maybe your spouse has passed. Your kids are busy. The phone rings less. And gradually, without you realizing it, your world shrinks. Your health shrinks with it. But here's the good news. This isn't permanent. Just like smoking can be quit, loneliness can be reversed. And in the next few minutes, you're going to learn exactly how to turn the tide, not with therapy or medication, but with simple daily shifts that rewire your brain, strengthen your heart, and bring light back into your life. Because aging doesn't have to mean fading. It can mean rising, stronger, wiser, and more connected than ever. You might think loneliness is just an emotion, a feeling that fades when you distract yourself. But what if I told you that loneliness is more like a slow-moving virus, one that attacks your body and brain from the inside out? Let's start with the heart. Studies show that people who are chronically lonely have a 29% higher risk of heart disease and a 32% higher risk of stroke. Not because they're eating worse or skipping exercise, but because their stress levels are always on. Their bodies are flooded with cortisol, the stress hormone. And cortisol doesn't just make you feel tense. It causes your blood vessels to constrict, raises blood pressure, and puts enormous strain on the heart. Day after day, year after year, until one day the heart gives up. But the damage doesn't stop there. Loneliness is one of the strongest predictors of cognitive decline. In a groundbreaking study published in JAMA Psychiatry, seniors who reported feeling lonely had a 40% higher risk of developing dementia. Why? Because connection isn't just emotional, it's neurological. Social interaction stimulates the brain. It activates memory centers, language processing, attention control, all the parts of the brain that keep you sharp and independent. Without that stimulation, those areas start to weaken. It's like a muscle you don't use, and when that mental muscle fades, so does your ability to think clearly, make decisions, and even recognize loved ones. Now let's talk about immunity. Have you ever wondered why some people get sick more often as they get older, while others stay strong and resilient? One major reason is connection. Lonely people have weaker immune systems, plain and simple. A study from Carnegie Mellon University found that people who felt socially isolated were more than twice as likely to develop symptoms after being exposed to a virus, even when their physical health looked the same on paper. Why? Because loneliness alters the expression of genes involved in immune defense. It literally changes how your cells fight back. And inflammation? It skyrockets. Chronic loneliness is linked to higher levels of C-reactive protein and interleukin-6, two major markers of inflammation that drive everything from arthritis to cancer. This isn't speculation. It's biology. Loneliness triggers the same danger response as physical pain. Your body thinks you're in trouble, even when you're just sitting on the couch. And here's the scary part. You might not even know it's happening. The damage is invisible until it's not. You wake up one day feeling more tired than usual. You forget where you put your keys, again. You catch colds more often. You start avoiding stairs. And slowly you begin to fade, not from age, but from disconnection. But this isn't a warning. It's a wake-up call. Because just as the body can break down, it can rebuild. Loneliness doesn't have to define the next decade of your life. In fact, it could be the signal that transforms it, if you know what to do next. And that's exactly what we'll cover in the next section. Loneliness may be deadly, but here's the part most people never hear. It's reversible. Not with therapy, not with medication, but with small, doable shifts, starting today. Let's begin with something simple. Conversation. In a study from the University of Chicago, researchers found that even a 10-minute meaningful conversation per day, just one, was enough to reduce feelings of loneliness by up to 40% in older adults. And no, it doesn't have to be deep. It can be about the weather, the news, a memory. What matters is connection. The sound of a voice, the feeling of being heard. That tiny thread rewires your brain, literally. Want to supercharge that effect? Combine conversation with movement. Group walking programs, especially those with regular participants, have been shown to reduce isolation, lower blood pressure, and improve cognition in seniors. In fact, a 2020 study in the Gerontologist revealed that older adults who joined weekly group walks had fewer doctor visits and reported better mood, memory, and balance over a 6-month span. Why? Because movement activates your brain, and community keeps you doing it. And what if you can't get out of the house easily? Then let the connection come to you. Research shows that video calls are more powerful than you might think. A 2021 study published in The Lancet Healthy Longevity found that older adults who regularly used video chat had a lower risk of depression and cognitive decline than those who relied on phone calls or texting. The key is visual engagement. Seeing a face, especially a familiar one, lights up the social parts of the brain. Don't know who to call? That's not a dead end. It's a doorway. There are programs now designed just for seniors to combat isolation. One of the most effective? The Senior Companion programs run in many cities, which pair older adults with trained volunteers for weekly visits. No cost, no catch. Just real human presence. And for those who prefer virtual options, platforms like Papa, Mon Ami, or Silverline connect seniors with friendly, verified companions for calls and chats. Now here's where it gets powerful. The fastest way to stop feeling lonely is to help someone else feel less alone. Volunteering, yes, even just a few hours a month, has been shown to reduce inflammation, lower blood pressure, and extend lifespan in seniors. not because of the activity itself, but because it restores a sense of meaning. It shifts your identity from isolated to needed, from fading to impactful. And that shift, that's where healing begins. Because loneliness isn't always about who's missing from your life. Sometimes it's about the parts of you that haven't been used in a while. Your kindness, your humor, your wisdom, your voice. Bring those parts back into the world, and the world starts coming back to you. Reconnection doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you function, from your brain to your bones. Within weeks of rebuilding meaningful connection, whether through a daily phone call, a walking club, or simply having someone to laugh with, your body starts responding, not emotionally, physiologically. In a 2018 study published in Psychosomatic Medicine, seniors who reported feeling socially fulfilled had lower blood pressure, reduced levels of cortisol, and significantly better sleep quality, even compared to those who exercised more but remained isolated. Why? Because belonging tells your body something powerful. You're safe. And when the body feels safe, it heals. Your heart rate slows. Your immune system turns back on. Chronic inflammation, the root of countless age-related diseases, begins to recede. One study even found that seniors with strong social bonds had less buildup of arterial plaque, reducing the risk of heart attack and stroke. But the most astonishing changes happen in the brain. MRI scans show that older adults who experience deep social connection have denser gray matter in the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus, the areas responsible for memory, attention, and decision-making. In simple terms, the more connected you feel, the sharper your brain stays. In a 2017 longitudinal study out of Harvard, researchers followed more than 700 people for over 75 years. Their conclusion? The single strongest predictor of health and happiness in later life wasn't genetics, money, or diet. It was the quality of their relationships. Those who felt connected lived longer, had less cognitive decline, and were more physically independent, even into their 90s. And it's not just about avoiding disease. It's about what you gain. When you feel seen, your dopamine rises, boosting motivation and mood. When you laugh, your body releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone that lowers anxiety and builds trust. And when you spend time in uplifting conversation, you activate mirror neurons, the same brain pathways that light up when we feel loved, understood, and valued. These aren't abstract ideas. They're chemical upgrades, hormonal recalibrations, biological rewards for doing something as simple as being present with another human being. And here's the best part. Unlike medication, there are no side effects. Unlike treatments, it doesn't cost a cent. And unlike many things in aging, it's never too late to start, even if your circle is small, even if you felt forgotten, even if your last conversation didn't go the way you hoped. One moment of connection can restart the healing process, because your body isn't just aging, it's listening. And when it hears laughter, love, and belonging, it doesn't just survive, it comes back to life. We often think the biggest threats to our health come from outside. A diagnosis, a fall, a sudden change we didn't see coming. But what if the real danger wasn't sudden at all? What if it's been showing up quietly, in the empty calendar, the meals eaten alone, the phone that hasn't rung in days? And what if the solution, the thing that could protect your heart, sharpen your mind, and add a decade of strength to your life, isn't a drug or a diet, but a conversation? That's what the science is telling us. In study after study, researchers have found that seniors who feel deeply connected to others are more likely to live into their 90s with strength, clarity, and independence. Not just more years, better years. Years where you still remember names, still walk without fear, still wake up excited for what the day might bring. And it starts small. One phone call, one weekly walk, one How are you really that turns a stranger into a friend. That's the shift. Because longevity doesn't come from luck. It comes from connection. And when you rebuild those threads, thread by thread, your body doesn't just hold on, it thrives. You don't have to wait for someone to knock on your door. You don't have to be the life of the party. You just have to take one small step towards someone else. That one call you've been meaning to make it. That neighbor you nod to from the driveway, say more than hello. That community center, walking group, or volunteer program you've been thinking about, try it, just once. Because here's the truth. Every step you take away from loneliness is a step toward healing, and those steps add up. To stronger bones, to clearer thoughts, to warmer mornings, and maybe, just maybe, to 10 more years of dancing at weddings, holding great-grandbabies, and walking under your own power. But you won't find those extra years in a prescription bottle. You'll find them in a shared laugh, a kind voice, a hand reaching back when you reach out. And the best part, you can begin tonight.